Hearing me? Can people hear me?
I don't think it's on.
Well, the green light's on.
Oh.
I don't have a volume, there's a volume on mine.
Perfect, that was perfect.
Okay, Ms. Brigg, would you call the roll?
City Council President Suzanne Souter.
Here.
Councilperson Joseph Day.
Here.
Councilperson Nerman Zubaka.
Here.
Councilperson Andrew Zelt.
Here.
Councilperson Brian Mataway.
Here.
Also present, Mayor Valerie Leary. Mike Hoffman Esquire.
Here.
And Chief of Police Richard McCabe.
Thank you. We have minutes from the July 11th and August 13th meetings.
I need to check your volume.
Any comments or corrections to the minutes from, let's start with the July ones, July 11th. Are there any comments or corrections to council? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as submitted? All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. The minutes on August 13th, are there any comments or corrections to those? Is there a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Mr. Wisman, our treasurer, is unable to be with us this evening. He is under the weather. I do have the report, which I will read now. Our total unrestricted funds on hand are $10,555,999.35. Our total restricted funds on hand are $3,486,593.57, for a total cash on hand of $14,042,592.92. Those who may recall from last month, this has gone up significantly, and that's because we have received two things. We've received our state bond bill funds, which have to go into a special account because they can only be spent for the designated items for which they were approved. And we have received 91% of our property taxes for the year, which go into the general fund. And last month, Mr. Day raised a question as to why the fees for the architect that assists the Historic Area Commission were such a high percentage of what was projected for the year. And Ms. Tentiel is looking into that. I don't know if it's a lag in billing or what, but she is looking into it. Any other questions from council about the treasurer's report? Is there a motion to approve the report subject to audit?
Motion to approve the treasurer's report.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and check your phone first. Send it to my. I sent it to you. Okay, we go. This Pantilo is a training for floodplain administrators. It's run by the FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, which also manages the federal flood insurance program. So it's designed for people like her who are city administrators or officials who have to administer the floodplain program. So in her absence, she has given me the following report. We are currently in the hiring process for a code enforcement officer, and there will be an additional job posting later this month for another position in the building and code enforcement department. Floating pier, The contractor has completed the driving of the test piles and the graded analysis. Right now, they are awaiting a final set of calculations from their dock provider and are hoping to have them soon. They're finalizing their schedule as to when they will be coming out to actually build the pier. We're working with the mobile stage manufacturing company to finalize the cost and the quote for the new mobile stage and hope to place that order within a few weeks. And the city has received a notification from the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commissioner notifying us that Sycamore Wine Bar LLC on August 14th applied for a taproom license with full spirits and Sunday service for a premise at 208 Unit C here in Newcastle. And any neighbor within, I think it's a mile of that, probably received a letter at home about this as well. And we have prepared and posted a bid opportunity for fiscal year 2025 citywide paving contract. This project involves roadway resurfacing for portions of Buttonwood Avenue, West 10th Street, Kingsway, School Street, Boundary Street, and Cherry Street. All projects for which the city has received fiscal 24 and 25 bond bill awards. The bidding is open until October 3rd. And at which time, at 1:30 that day, when the bidding closes, they'll open the bids and begin the analysis to make a selection. And a pre-bid meeting will be held virtually on Friday, September 20th at 1:30. And anyone interested should contact the city administration building to obtain a bid pack. A bid package for curbing and sidewalk projects is also coming out soon. And as a reminder, the fiscal 25 tax bills are due by September 30th. Most people have already paid. As I mentioned, we've received about 91% of our taxes. Delmarva Gas Company continues their work on 3rd Street and have sent out letters with screening options. They are also looking into alternate planter options. And since the last council meeting, we have applied for the following grants: a DelDOT Bike Council grant to conduct a feasibility study for a new and extended bike trail around Lukens Drive along the Delaware River, a grant from a Tree for Every Delawarean initiative, grant to plant trees in both Suzie Park and at Chestnut Street, which is a potential future dog park location. The DenRec Outdoor Recreational Parks and Trails grant for Battery Park Phase 2 to add additional playground equipment, new playground surfacing, benches, and landscaping to the playground. A resolution will be coming out next month for the grant application. And the Now Trinidad tall ship will be docking at our pier from, I think, about midnight tonight. They're due in through the 22nd. And you can visit this ship. It's their inaugural visit to Newcastle. And that's all from Ms. Cantillo's report. Chief, do you have anything?
Assuming this microphone, you want me to present from here? Is that good?
Wherever you prefer.
That's great. I only have a few things to talk about tonight. First, I want to report that we did have a recruit graduate for the State Police, the State Police Academy is now in service in its field training program. So that gives us 17 out of 18. Mickey Fest has come and gone, and no issues to report from that event. Looked like we had a pretty good showing. But the footprint that we set up and the work that we did with other volunteers seemed to be effective. I did want to make note, we're going to put something on our Facebook page. I recently met with DelDOT and they outlined some projects that are going to affect this area. Nothing directly in the city, but surrounding the city that may have impact on cut-through traffic. So they were specific to talk to us because they recognize what happens when 95 or 295 closes in our area and the impact it has on Route 9. So we're certainly going to keep an eye on that. I spoke with the executive director of CCD earlier today. You're all familiar with his HOPE program that he and I are going to work with some 7th graders in prevention training. To this point, I think he's had 2 enrolled. So it's my understanding he's going to expand to the Colonial School District to try to get some more involvement there. So our goal is hopefully within the next week, 10 days, to have a class filled and try to stay on schedule. We may have to push it a week, but we'd like to stay on schedule because the goal is to have the 11-week curriculum finished before the end of the year, before the kids go out on break. I know there's a resolution tonight to establish our Police Accountability Commission. I just wanted to announce that we do have it, our members have all been notified. Our first meeting is obviously Thursday night at 6:30 at the police department. So we're looking forward to getting that started. We're one of the first agencies, there's a handful in front of us, but one of the first agencies in the state to get this rolling. The idea for our first meeting is some introduction and then a background on the history of how we got to this point. And then from there, we're going to turn it over to the committee themselves. So, and I believe that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief from council? Okay, thank you. Council communications, Mr. Zabaka?
Hi, everybody. Strange to be back and not fully virtually. Thank you, everybody, for coming to primaries. I'm going to encourage people to try to, register to vote in federal elections and state elections in November. Don't forget that there's beyond the presidential debate. There's still seats in Delaware to be voted for. So make sure you come out and support, people that you think can make a change for the state and the country. This is a question for city administrator and planning commission. So just kind of voicing it here. For the comprehensive plan annual update in 2025, I just was curious if planning commission already has workshop schedules for this. And it might be more relevant as we talk later in a meeting about some of the stuff that's going to be introduced. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Manaway?
Thank you, Council President. Last week it was highlighted that several residents had some concerns about speeding and other traffic related issues on 2nd and 3rd Street. Since heard from some neighbors in the area along with other members on council, we will continue to solicit feedback from neighbors and friends. National First Responder Day is coming up Monday, October the 28th. Last year, the day came and went, and admittedly, I didn't notice it until after the fact. I took out an ad to salute our brave men and women and wrote a letter to the Weekly. Having had a full year to prepare, Mr. Cheesy, as my wife sometimes refers to me, had some time to think. And I approached a newer friend to Newcastle, Dream Bakery, about an idea called Cookies for Cops, where they're going to donate $1 for every cookie sold during the entire month of October. I thought a little bit more and said, we have other first responders in our community outside of the cops, mainly Goodwill. And so out of the $1, Dream Bakery is going to donate 50 cents for every cookie sold for the entire month of October to go to the FOP Lodge number 1, and 50 cents will go to the Goodwill Fire Company. Mr. Cheesy, me, will donate $250 to the FOP Lodge and the Goodwill Fire Company, respectfully. I just respect and appreciate the first responders in our community so much. And I think sometimes you have to put your money where your mouth is.
Right.
And then lastly, Saturday, October 5th, from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m., our neighbors and friends in Delaware City will be hosting Delaware City Annual Day. We have a local event that day, the yard sale. My intention is to be in Delaware City and to volunteer. If you are trying to participate, please email info@delawarecityday.com or just go and visit, enjoy the games, food, entertainment, and family fun. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Mr. Zell?
Let's talk about the dog park. We have some information we put out there for people to fill out a survey. We had 71 people reply to our survey. One of the main questions we asked is, would you use a dog park? There was actually 42 said yes, it was 59%. And then there was a few said no because they actually don't have a dog, which makes sense. There's actually 12 that didn't have dogs, of the 71 that replied. The two main other questions that we asked was location. Locations for the Hermitage, for a dog park, and we had 37% say yes, they would use a dog park at the Hermitage. And the other question was using a dog park at Chestnut. There's a parking area there today for buses that is available and owned by the city. So, and that was 65% yes. So I'm looking to work with council here to move forward with using the Chestnut as the area for a dog park. But I think the first thing that we need to do is get a land survey to figure out what we can actually use within the area. One of the main concerns we do have with that area is a small building from Delmarva. It's a small building, but if you look on the print, it goes out a little bit. So we need to figure out if we'll need to do anything special. Potentially, if we did put the dog park there, to do something special from Delmarva to use part of the property to put a fence. So I'm requesting from council to request a land survey of that area to see what is available for a dog park.
By the survey, you mean, I think the city owns most of that land, is that correct?
Yes, but we need to figure out what we can use based upon boundaries, where we can put fencing based upon some feet from the edges of the property and things like that.
So do you think we need a surveyor or simply to review the maps? Or don't you know yet?
I'm not sure, that's why I'm throwing that out there.
Okay. I guess we could start with a review of the maps and see if that gives us enough information, and if not, then we may have to go to the next step. I mean, there's some money allocated for the dog park, so if we need a surveyor, that would come out of that money.
All right.
That sound reasonable to everybody?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
It sounds reasonable, but just wondering if on top of that location, if at least one more location can be thrown into a hat and just one with already built parking lot, and I'm right in front, where Goodwill kind of has, the ramp, so that little grass there in front of it where the cars park between the trail and, there's a little shade there already, so not the progressive art area, but the one closer to the water, so I don't know if that can be considered as one of the locations. Or the location at the, Old Hill potentially, but just something to think about. That's more local. I like the Chestnut location a lot, but just wondering if the committee has considered these locations as well.
we've looked at those other scenarios, but, on the riverfront for both of those scenarios is putting up fencing. We'd rather keep it the way it is so it can be seen. And this area is a little bit off the beaten path and is available for use and owned by the city.
Yeah, the land by the Progressive Club owns some of that land. And as I understand it, the rest of the land going up towards the Sail Club is owned by the trust.
Okay, so that the one in the back could be, but
Towards
could
the
be
front.
could be potential solution because we could fence that because it's not.
But it's not the city,
But it's
so
not
that
city.
would add another layer of complexity to it. And the land on Bull Hill is, if you mean beyond the playground, that open space beyond the playground.
Yeah, nearby.
That's also trust land, I believe.
I think so, yes.
Mr. Baldini shaking his head yes. So again, if it's land the city already owns, it makes it simpler.
I understand, but we're also looking at Hermitage at the same time, so
Yeah.
that's fine, or any other locations.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and do council or president of communications now.
You want Joe?
Pardon me, sorry, Mr.
That's
Dunn.
okay, okay. I just have a few items. So I did post on Facebook, the Old Newcastle Litter Crew. Now that summer has passed, we're gonna start events again. Our next event is September 29th at 4 p.m. We'll be meeting, right down on South Street at the old SPCA, Rochus Eliasson, whatever you know it as. And we'll be, doing, 7th Street and Washington Street. I know it was mentioned earlier in the city administrator's report. We have been working diligently to try and get the contract done for the band shell. It looks like our final price is going to be a little bit over $121,000. The other good news is that there is one already built, and we're trying to get that one so that we have it, you know what I mean, in time. So we're not waiting an additional 6 months. I have been working with some of the former members of the Bull Hill Boatyard. We had 3 or 4 cleanups down there, and it really looks a lot better. We picked up a lot of the wood, a lot of the trash. It's getting there. I did turn over a copy of the old lease from the boatyard to the city for our city attorney to look at it, make suggestions, changes. And I do anticipate that coming back either in October or November to council so we can discuss and possibly vote on it. The boatyard members have been, we had to clean it up and get some things done there in order for the insurance company to come out and actually give a price. So they've been working diligently on that. I also just wanted to announce that I will not be here next month. At next month's meeting, I have my wife and I will be out of the country. It's our 30th anniversary, so I won't be able to make it even virtually, but so everybody. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I just have a couple of things. First of all, Mr. Bergstrom informed me that Newcastle County Special Services has put out a bid to repair the manhole on Delaware Street near the Terry House where the plate has been for like a year. They originally thought they could handle it themselves, but it proved to be more complex, so they have to go out for bids. But they do hope to get it finished this fall. And the county's also working to get final repaving on the repair. They had to dig up the street at Second and Harmony for a sewer repair. And there's temporary paving there, but they hope to get that patch done too, but before the end of the paving season, which is of course dependent on the weather. We're pleased to welcome the now Trinidad to Newcastle this week. I suspect you'll hear more about that from the mayor, so I won't go into any details. I'm sorry that my prior commitments prevent me from taking part in the festivities that are planned while she's in port, but I do look forward to seeing it there. It's always exciting to see a tall ship docked in Newcastle. And I guess it's about a week and a half ago, I came to our attention that there was some flooding on Route 9 just past Berry Cutoff, just around the bridge area of the bridge. It goes over Army Creek, or Broadway, that's Broadway. And it's a Saturday naturally, but Ms. Tantilla got in touch with somebody from Public Works who came out and took a look. And a problem that has come up before, the intake gate by the flood for the sluice gate, which is at Bull Hill, logs get washed in there by the river, and then they jam the gate open. So when high tide, when the gate's supposed to close to limit the amount of water that goes upstream, when the log jams it open, then the water goes through. And Mr. Wilson went and valiantly tried to clear it, but it was high tide, and at high tide, the opening to that pipe is underwater. So it's kind of hard, and just with the tide cycles at that point, low tide was when it was dark. So, but once they were able to get to it when the tide cycle was appropriate, they got it taken care of. So he checks that nearly every work day to make sure there's nothing jammed, but when it happens on the weekend, but we did get it taken care of. So now we have business from the mayor.
Even though it happened a week ago on September 11th, I would like us all to stand if you are able to have a moment of silence for Patriot Day. Thank you. So if you'll be at the dock, you will see it tomorrow morning. I'm gonna be up around midnight tonight. More than happy to take a trip down there. They'll be taking care of, some logistical things tomorrow. The Coast Guard will come in on Thursday morning and make their check for the Neo Trinidad. And then there will be an opening, ceremony on board at 10 a.m. And Friday night is the Making Waves Party, which you'll find event link on Facebook. And that is music, food, beverage, and tours of the ship. We're encouraging all artists, photographers, and such to visit the ship and memorialize it, visit with whatever art medium that you do. The Market on the Green is still occurring and will occur through October 12th. And it will be weekly. The only thing that might hold it up is truly adverse weather. The Belgian Beer Fest and Art on the Green take place on September 28th. And that's always a great event. So be sure if you don't have tickets for the Belgian Beer Fest, you want to go, there are a few still available, and also be sure you get out on Art on the Green. We just had our elections, as mentioned here. For those of you who may not be registered to vote, I encourage you to go to vote.gov, select the state and register to vote if you are not, or check your voter registration if you have to vote. You know, during elections, it's normal to have different opinions from your neighbors. And let's remember though what brings us together as a community. Because really the final thing we all care about is the well-being of our friends, our family, and our neighbors. That's all that matters. Even if we don't agree, showing respect, kindness, and willingness to listen helps keep us connected. It's okay to feel strongly about it, but being thoughtful and understanding will always help us move forward as a united group. Elections are temporary. They happen every 4 years or more. And our relationships with one another are lasting. Let's keep working toward a future where we come together with understanding and respect, no matter how political winds blow. If you don't like what you see on Facebook, you can scroll by. Also, myself and the city offices have received some concerns regarding signage in the historic area and other places that initially appear to be not in line with our current sign code. But I would like Mr. Hoffman, our attorney, to know. Mr. Smith's family cannot be here this evening, and David and Judy Maldini will be accepting this resolution on behalf.
Resolution 2024-38, resolution of condolence for Mr. Russell Paul Russ Smith. Whereas the city of Newcastle offers respectful condolences to the family and friends and directs this resolution to honor Mr. Russell Paul Russ Smith, whose extraordinary life and legacy have left an indelible mark on our community and our state. Whereas a proud native of Newcastle, Mr. Smith was born on April 10th, 1949, the son of Russell N. and Barbara Smith. He graduated from William Penn High School and then earned a degree in American history from the University of Delaware. Whereas Mr. Smith devoted 42 years to the National Park Service, serving in 70 national park units nationwide. His dedication culminated in his return to Delaware in 2013, where he led the transformation of the First State National Monument into the First State National Historical Park under President Obama's authorization. His leadership, passion for history, and commitment to public service earned him numerous accolades throughout his career. Whereas beyond his professional achievements, Mr. Smith was a man of great personal integrity, a devoted husband, father, and grandfather who cherished his family, including his beloved wife of 53 years, Jackie, and his sons, Nathan and David. His involvement in community service as a board member of the Newcastle Historical Society, Newcastle Community Partnership, and Preservation Delaware, as well as a council member of the city of Newcastle, left an indelible mark on our community. Mr. Smith's legacy will live on through our city signage, branding, city flag, and numerous wayside exhibits. Whereas Mr. Smith's remarkable life touched and enriched the lives of many, his absence, a void that cannot be filled, will be deeply felt by all who knew, loved, and admired him. We join his family and friends in celebrating a well-lived life and extend our heartfelt condolences to his wife Jackie, sons Nathan and David, sister Kathleen, and their extended families as they remember him with pride and affection. His absence leaves a profound and irreplaceable void in our community. Now therefore, be it resolved, the city of Newcastle adopts this honorary resolution to recognize Russell Paul Smith and his legacy of dedication to history, service to the community, and family. May his memory continue to inspire and uplift those he leaves behind. Signed, all of council.
Thank you all.
Spoke to Jack.
Happy Russ, that's family. Thank you all. Russ was a tremendous friend of the city of Newcastle, to its residents, and to its mission. He did everything for the city with sincere dedication, passion, and a sense of humor. You will be missed. Thank you all.
Thank you. Captain Moore, are you doing the Goodwill report?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening. Just have a few things for tonight. Unless there's any questions with the August, report.
Any questions from council about the report? Thank you.
On a training note, some may have seen, a lot of boats, smaller boats out on the Delaware River, on, September the 9th. That was part of our boat operations class, that was held. There was 12 individuals, made up from the full-time career staff, part-time staff, and members. So the first part was held at Great Admiral in the Delaware River at Battery Park, and then the second part of that was held the next day at a different location in over in New Jersey. Earlier, the first week of September, 18 individuals compromised were made up of the same career, part-time, and members completed their swiftwater technician class. So everybody passed. So one thing with training, it never stops. These two classes were advanced skills. So it's good to have a lot more individuals that are able to do these skills and with the city and
And, excuse me, did you say this was open water rescue?
It was, one was a swift water rescue recognition pass, and the other one, was a rescue boat.
Thank
That's
you.
it for training on the recognition part. This week is the Delaware Farmers Convention, down in Rehoboth. Two members from Goodwill, were recognized for their years of service. One, Lois Armstrong, she was inducted into the Ladies Auxiliary Hall of Recognition. She has 64 years of the Ladies Auxiliary, with Goodwill. And Bill Emery was recognized with having 50 years of service, with Goodwill Farmers. So, kudos to both.
Pardon me. Okay, public comments, the usual rules, please state your name and sign in, is the sign-in sheet there, is there?
Yes.
And, everyone gets 3 minutes, which result is our timer.
I guess first I'd like to say, I don't know where I live, but I did not realize that Russ had passed away. We obviously did see eye to eye a lot, but, my takeaway from it is he was a mensch, just a really good guy, not the greatest, not the tallest, not the best, but he was just a good guy, so I'll miss him. On to something else, the dog park, I sent everyone, pictures and my opinion again this evening. Unfortunately, I diddle dally and it got to you probably after you left home. But I've evaluated the parking, the areas. On the average, Chestnut Street only has 8 open spots for parking at any given time during the day. That's the wrong place. Between the parking by the Oak Club, the tennis courts, and the Circle, there's 80 spots, which on the average, there's 25 spots spread out between any of them. So I firmly believe that in the park where a family can bring their dog, can have their kids at the playground, and maybe do a picnic walking along the water, that's the only place for it, in my opinion. As far as the funding, I also sent pictures of a couple dog parks where they have signage from suppliers, builders, contractors. They've all set the price, because I talked to the municipalities, where it all set price. There's no way that we as residents should be paying $85,000 for a dog park. Not a chance, no way. So I think it should be subsidized by signage and suppliers. Buttonwood Drive. Again, I go down there once every 6 weeks and check on Lucan's Drive. I have pictures and I'll send them later. For the 7th time in the last year and a half, the lock is not secure. Somebody ripped it open. And I do have 2 residents from Buttonwood that say that steel's lifted over the fence at the Circle at the end by the company. Either it's gonna be secure or it's not. Can't talk about it and say it will, but it never is. The residents in Buttonwood are concerned. I think as far as projects are concerned, it's good to look forward and say, hold up on projects. But you gotta go back, and the city's solicitor should be able to stop projects that are in the process of being done because of inappropriate traffic studies.
Carl Benson, 47 East Second Street. A couple years ago, when Delmarva started their project with the gas line, I noticed when the new connections were made, our historic houses suddenly had this ugly piece of structure that the gas company needs outside of the historic property. I was very concerned about that. It takes away from the whole view of the historic area. But when I inquired about it, they said that Delmarva would come back and put covers on them that were historically appropriate. Recently, I received this letter in the mail, has 3 options on it. None of them are historically accurate. Not that we're ever any situations where we would have these covers in the historic times, but can at least make a structure that looks a little more historic. I built one. Many of my neighbors built one out of wood, kind of blends right in with the siding of my house. And it's not a ugly piece of lattice or whatever Delmarva thinks is appropriate. I was also told that the Historic Area Commission would be involved in picking out these covers. And I understand they have not been consulted at all. So I wish you would contact Delmarva and see if we can work this out. Really, the city deserves to have something better looking than a piece of lattice or a plant to cover their devices. My second question is, who is the acting code enforcement person at this time? Doesn't seem like there's any code enforcement going on at all throughout the town. I know it's a problem, you've had difficulty finding a person, whatever it may be, but somebody does need to do the job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benson.
Yes, I'm here tonight because I'm tired of being lied to. Back in March 16, 2021, there was a Board of Adjustment hearing for a variance on property on Bold Avenue. It was granted with some stipulations. The one stipulation reads, Mr. Berkman stated that a civil engineer will be employed by the applicant to do lines and grades which will address the water runoff, and Mr. Platt can review the plan prior to a permit being issued. His lawyer also makes a very similar statement in that ruling. The permits were issued by Bergstrom February of 2023. The house was completed in probably March 24. All of a sudden, I have a cascading water coming into my yard and then my shed. If you read the Board of Adjustment hearing, Madam President, I will leave it with you if I can. You can pass the council. It clearly states that the water will run to Bald Avenue and it will run to 11th Street. He has not met those requirements. I had a meeting with Mr. Bergstrom and the city administrator in June. I was told the bond would be pulled. I was told no CO would be issued. I was told, I forget the third one, but all of those are lies. There was no bond pull. Bergstrom said it was too expensive. He said the CO didn't have to be issued because it was an original CO because it wasn't a demo project. And there are people living in that house. And I'm sorry, I got a little off track because I found this email that I voided. It says, at note, I'd be delighted to speak with Mr. Platt if you wish. He has not contacted me on this matter. His claims are obviously baseless and reluctant. I have been reluctant to expend city resource in an attempt to prove a negative. He, however, is a reasonable ex-politician. I'll have no trouble attending a meeting with him or giving him a cold call. Let me know how you feel. I don't know if Mr. Bergstrom can read it. Here it is in writing. Water has to run to Bald Avenue or 11th Street. There's just no other reason. It's clearly, and then Mr. Day, I went back and I looked at your ordinance 534. You put in there section F, if an applicant does not meet the requirements of the board, there's clear procedures to follow. This has been going on since April. We have a city administrator that does not return emails. She doesn't return phone calls. It takes weeks for that. I have to do 3, 4 follow-ups. My shed is inundated with water whenever it rains. The mayor called my neighbor. I went to visit my neighbor, called her in May, and she said she'd do a follow-up. That still hasn't happened. Madam President, before I finish, I would like to thank you. I have contacted you in the last 2 weeks. You have been very efficient in responding. Your answers are iffy. I think Mr. Bergstrom's lying to you also, but that's just my opinion. Let's go from there. You can only operate with the information you have. And if anybody wants to listen to the tape of the meeting I had with Burton, the administrator I had.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, sir.
Are there any other comments tonight?
David Donald, so with the 725 Commerce Street. I've been there for 15 months now, basically functionally homes. My house has been turned into a death trap, so it's up to it's no longer safe to live in. For that process, what happened? About a year and a half beat down, cost me over $600,000 for various parties, locally and statewide. During that beat down, I'm kind of puzzled. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I didn't get them. Because I know a few people downtown here. I had a conversation with a former police officer. I've known him for over 20 years. I explained to him what happened to Ray's liver. He looks at me, after I'm not telling him what's going on. He says, they've done that with 4 other people. He got shot, then he starts going into the scenario where you get arrested, you're beat senseless by a court system, financially devastated, beat down, push that civil limit of 2 years time, make sure it don't happen, nor do you have the resources to swing like that. I went through that. The 4 people I would like to speak to about this. Carol Livingston, Angela Foley, and Carol Willing. I don't know if the 4th one is going. The 4th person I know that had real estate development issues, John Willing. Not around it. The 5th person went through this with me, arrested, basically kidnapped, falsely accused, tormented, threatened, tortured. And I pissed them off, didn't bow down and kiss the ring. That's where I have personally concerned. I'm destroyed. Trades destroyed. I liquified $187,000 of annuities. Savings are wiped out. Don't know where I have a home. I'm homeless. No place to live in. I'll say. The point being, it's not happening to one person. Apparently there's 4 others. So serial kidnapping, serial false charges, serial terror, capital order. I want to research his name. Notice he's being still alive, I can speak to him. Anybody else has been attacked by the city? 725 Climber Street, drop a note in my box. My phone number is 898-8720, 898-8720. The person I wouldn't be seeing me in public, which I would like a person. Thanks.
Any other comments today? No.
Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about this dog park situation, which I'm obviously dead set against, but I had a couple questions for you from it. Number one, you had a survey, 42 people said they would use it. And I'm to take that as a mandate? And you seriously think that's a mandate? Because 42 people said that they would use it?
I don't want it at all. I certainly don't want it anywhere near me, and it sounds like that's where you're putting. Okay, that being said, I agree with what was said earlier, $85,000 is ridiculous. We got a grant for the playground. Why can't you get a grant for a dog park? I mean, I can't imagine what kind of a dog park costs $85,000. But beyond that, we were also told it's COVID money. So maybe some people are looking at it like, it's found money. It's not found money. It's all taxpayer dollars. And the government has no money of its own. Any money it gets by collecting taxes. Okay? The other thing is, it's not just $85,000, is it? How much is it gonna, I've never heard this discussed yet. How much is it gonna cost for the ongoing maintenance? How many people are you gonna have to hire full-time to clean it up, to maintain it, to keep it from being vandalized and, to do necessary repairs? Does anybody have any rough idea, any figures on that? Has that been discussed anywhere? This is your tax dollars, everybody, okay? They've already promised your taxes are going up next year. But also, wouldn't that money go a long way to funding the band shell that we're talking about? It seems like there's a lot of support for that. Everybody thinks we need a new one. And I tend to agree, from what I've heard, but that would go a long way toward paying that, wouldn't it? So anyway, anybody care to comment on that? I just want to know, it's not just 85,000, how much more is this gonna cost long-term? And once again, 42 people say they will use it. That's hardly a mandate in the city of over 5,000. Okay, you need to reconsider this. You can get funding for it and put it somewhere not near where I drive through every day, then I'll shut up, okay? But as the way things stand now, this is just absurd.
Anyone else?
Dave Day on 119 South Street. And on the agenda tonight is this ordinance 24-550, which talks about the moratorium here. In section 3, you mentioned 4 particular areas that you want to evaluate. Infrastructure and you got four things that we talked about for that 12 months. But I think for short, on water, on the floodplain issues and things of that nature. And also the super fund issue. The 2 or 3 super funds you got within the town, and then you have the Basin Road, which is the edge of town in some spots. I think they need to be considered at this time as well. Because with the water running and the airport stuff floating around, plus you're gonna be digging and disturbing things, that has to be considered in your plan. And in section 6, that pro pump, I like that. Can you tell me what the intent here is?
Well, Mr. Rodine, since this is the first reading tonight, if it gets a second, we won't be having a discussion. But before it goes forward, it'll go to planning, and then it'll come back to us, and we'll have a public hearing and a discussion.
Now for then, meaning if you pass it now, you're gonna reach
We
back.
can't pass it tonight.
Okay.
This is just the first
Just
reading.
reading, right? But the verbiage helps, the passage or not the passage, and since it's new in the way we do things, like I said, it's a nice touch. It also says, okay, what are we gonna do here? So, if after the reading, and you have the public comments, if that definition and intent could be mentioned.
Okay, they can be amended during the second reading and discussion.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, the next item on the agenda is a resolution 2024-25 to confirm the mayor's appointment of Susan McLaughlin to the Board of Health. Is there a motion to read the resolution? Second? Sorry. Okay, I will read the resolution. Whereas Newcastle City Council Code provides that the mayor of Newcastle appoints 6 members to the Board of Health, subject to confirmation by the city council for 2-year terms. And whereas there's currently a vacant position on the Board of Health due to the resignation of Dr. Joanne Viola, and whereas the city council proposes to confirm the mayor's appointment of Susan McLaughlin to fill the unexpired term ending on October 9th, 2025. Therefore, be it resolved that the city council hereby confirms the appointment of the following person to the Board of Health. Susan McLaughlin, Board of Health, term ending October 9th, 2025. I believe council should have gotten the resume that Ms. McLaughlin provided. So if anyone has as you can see, she has extensive background in drug addiction and alcohol treatment, which is something, a skill set not currently covered on the Board of Health. So that this would be a good addition. Are there any comments or questions? I don't know. I've talked to Ms. McLaughlin on the phone, but I don't know what she looks like, so I don't know. She's not here? Okay. So if there's no further questions, I guess we're ready for a vote. Is there a motion to approve Susan McLaughlin to the Board of Health? A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's approved. The next item is Resolution 2024-36, a resolution to establish the Chief Eugene Petty Police Accountability Committee, known as the PAC. Actually, I believe the attorney has advised me that we don't need a resolution to read the resolution, so I'll just go ahead and read it and then we'll discuss it and potentially vote. Whereas the City of Newcastle Police Department was first accredited in 2020 through the Delaware Police Accreditation Commission, DPAC. And whereas the City of Newcastle Police Department was awarded reaccreditation in July 2024 through a unanimous vote of the Delaware Police Accreditation Commission. And whereas statewide police accreditation program developed standards to ensure consistency of police operations, totaling 108 standards necessary to become accredited in compliance with the Police Officer Standings and Training Commission, known as POST, standards in order to attain reaccreditation. And whereas prior to the Police Officer Standards and Training Commission establishment, Delaware law had established the Delaware Council on Police Training to oversee accreditation. And whereas in 2023, House Bill 206 was approved and amended the Delaware Code related to police officer standards and training commission and provided for many things, including establishing police officer standards and training commission, and also issuing guidelines for local police oversight commissions or boards. And whereas Chief Eugene Petty was the first African-American chief of police for the city of Newcastle and made significant contributions to the City of Newcastle Police Department. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that the City of Newcastle shall establish the Chief Eugene Petty Police Accountability Committee, PAC, in accordance with Delaware Code. Be it further resolved that the Chief Eugene Petty Police Accountability Committee will be established by the Chief of Police to appoint members of the community to serve on the board to provide advice to the department on policy, training, how the department engages with the community, and other issues related to or affecting the department and the community served by the department. Are there any comments or questions? Mr. Mattaway, I know you've been involved with this. Did you have anything to add?
I would just like to thank the chief for taking leadership amongst the police community, amongst his counterparts in the state. This is something that effectively mandated, but with anything new, there are people that may have hesitancies to get on board, and our chief did not flinch. He moved proactively and actually wanted to do this before it was mandated. So I appreciate him and his visionary leadership.
Any other comments or questions on this? Is there a motion to approve resolution 2024-36? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Resolution 2024-37, a resolution to approve a vendor permit application for GH Shed Chop Chop Bar. Whereas the City of Newcastle Code requires licensing of vendors within the City of Newcastle. And whereas GH Shed Chop Chop Bar has petitioned to be considered for a vendor's permit and has supplied all of the required documentation, including insurance, State Health Department certificate, and City of Newcastle business license. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Newcastle has granted GH Shed Chop Chop Bar a vendor's permit to sell food and drink in calendar year 2026 at the following location, the Delaware Street Wharf area. Council was given a copy of the permit application, insurance, the Health Department certificate. This vendor would provide a different type of food that is currently provided by our other vendors, mobile vendors, the hot dog truck that's, and the ice cream are the only two other mobile food vendors we have in Newcastle. Is there any discussion or questions about this? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution is approved. The resolution is approved. Okay, and then the next two are the first readings, as we mentioned, ordinance 2024-549. Their motion to have a first reading of this ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I will read the ordinance. Ordinance 2024-59. An ordinance to amend the City of Newcastle Municipal Code, Chapter 1, General Provisions, General Administration regarding disclosure of location within an historic district. Whereas the Council of the City of Newcastle possesses the authority to adopt, amend, modify, or repeal the City of Newcastle Municipal Code, and whereas the City of Newcastle Historic District is an integral part of the character of the city. And whereas the City Council believes that preserving and protecting the character of the city's historic district is of utmost importance. And whereas preserving and protecting the character of the city's historic district begins with knowledge of the applicable regulations and requirements affecting property within the city's historic district. And whereas the City Council finds that adopting a requirement that the buyers of property within the city's historic district acknowledge awareness of the property's location within the city's historic district would promote compliance with the city's historic district regulations and requirements. And whereas the City Council has determined that it is in the best interest of the city and its residents to amend the City of Newcastle Municipal Code to incorporate requirements that buyers of property within the city's historic district acknowledge awareness of the property's location within an historic district. Now therefore, making the express finding that the provisions of this ordinance enhance and promote health, safety, and welfare of the City of Newcastle, be it ordained by the Council of the City of Newcastle as follows. City Codes, Chapter 1, General Provision, Article 3, General Administration, is hereby amended by adding a new Section 1-13 titled Disclosure of Location Within an Historic District as follows. And the printed copy, the new language is identified in bold. Section 1-13, Disclosure of Locations Within an Historic District. every purchaser who acquires title to land located within an historic residence or historic commerce zoning district within the city of Newcastle shall sign an affidavit acknowledging that the property is subject to additional requirements and regulations due to the property's location within an historic zoning district and submit said affidavit to the city. No document concerning the purchase of property within an historic residential or historic commerce zoning district within the city of Newcastle shall be recorded in the office of recording of deeds unless prior thereto it shall have been presented to the city for the purpose of determining that the affidavit required herein has been submitted to the city. Section 2. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held to be unconstitutional or invalid, such decisions shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 3. In the event that any existing ordinance or parts of ordinances are in conflict herewith, the provisions of this ordinance shall control. Section 4. This ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its adoption by City Council. So this was the first reading. Next month, we'll have a public hearing and a second reading and discussion. So that's it for this subject for tonight. And then the final, yes,
So we just have it, the AN removed, replaced with A, right before historic district throughout the document, just a typo.
okay, that can be amended when we do the final.
Okay.
on it. So make a note so you remember to remind us of that. Okay, and the final item for tonight is another first reading of potentially of ordinance 2024-550, an ordinance to impose a temporary moratorium on the acceptance or consideration of all applications proposing multifamily dwellings with more than 15 residential units, including as part of a mixed-use development, to allow the city council time to review its comprehensive development plan, city code, and applicable regulations regarding such development. Is there a motion to move forward with reading this ordinance? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Matterway, would you read this one? My voice is very down. Thank you.
Ordinance number 2024, 550, an ordinance imposing temporary moratorium on all acceptance for consideration of all applications proposing multifamily dwelling, more than 15 residential units, including as part of a mixed-use development to allow the city council time to review its comprehensive development plan, city code, and applicable regulations regarding such development. Whereas the council of the city of Newcastle is entrusted with ensuring the harmonious development of the city of Newcastle, as well as with preserving, protecting, and enhancing the present and future health, safety, order, convenience, prosperity, and general welfare of its citizens of the city of Newcastle. Whereas the recent emergence of large multifamily developments in the city of Newcastle has highlighted the need to evaluate the appropriateness of existence requirements and regulations governing such developments in advancing and protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the city of Newcastle. And whereas the temporary suspension of consideration of all applications proposing multifamily dwellings, more than 15 residential units, is necessary and appropriate to afford city council time and the opportunity to evaluate comprehensively the appropriateness of existing standards, feasibility of regulatory alternatives, and the wisdom of new standards, including concerning applicable terminology, definitions, criteria of approval, and process. And whereas city council has determined it is in the best interest of the city and its residents to impose a temporary moratorium to and including December 9th, 2025, on the acceptance for consideration of all applications proposing multifamily dwellings with more than 15 residential units within the city of Newcastle. Now therefore, making the express findings that the provisions of this ordinance enhance and promote the health, safety, and welfare of the city of Newcastle, be it ordained by the council of the city of Newcastle as follows. Section 1. A moratorium shall apply to stay applications proposing to establish, development, or construct multifamily dwellings with more than 15 residential units including as a part of mixed-use development in the city of Newcastle, submitted after the date of introduction of this ordinance. During the temporary stay, the city of Newcastle shall not accept any application, including plan and permit applications proposing multifamily dwellings, more than 15 residential units. Section 2. An application submitted prior to the introduction of this ordinance that is complete and found acceptable upon review of the city of Newcastle shall be exempt from all application of this stay. Section 3. During this moratorium, the city council shall evaluate the adequacy of transportation infrastructure and related regulatory standards and requirements, including concerning traffic impact studies. 2, evaluate adequacy of emergency ingress and egress to and from the city of Newcastle and first responder capabilities. 3, evaluate the adequacy of utility infrastructure and related standards. And 4, evaluate the impacts of multifamily dwellings, more than 15 residential units on city services. Section 4. If any section, subsections, sentence, clause, or phrase, this ordinance is for any reason held to be unconstitutional or invalid, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 5. In the event any existing ordinance or parts of ordinances are in conflict herewith, the provision of this ordinance shall control. Section 6. This ordinance shall become effective nunc pro tunc to its introduction and shall remain in effect until December 9th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. unless rescinded sooner by the city council. This represents the first reading.
Thank you. Okay, and as I said earlier, the next step is for this to be attached to the planning commission for their review and recommendation, then it will come back to council. We'll hold a public hearing, the second reading discussion is possible vote. So no discussion of this tonight. I think that's everything. Is there a motion to adjourn? A second? Second, all in favor?
I
Meeting adjourned.